The Fantasy Couriers are proud to be sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. There are games for everyone and in many sports. But right now, it's best ball season. You can draft all year long. The season never ends. You can participate in a slow draft with an 8-hour clock or a fast draft with a 2-minute clock. Stay tuned for some exclusive Fantasy Couriers best ball games during the off season.
Yeah, so currently the biggest football game in town is Best Ball Mania 4. For those of you that don't know, Best Ball Mania 4 is a big best ball fantasy football tournament for the year. Last year, number 3 was the biggest tournament of all time. 500,000 entrants. That's a lot. That's a big fantasy pool right there. Prize pool of $10 million. That's a lot of money. So Best Ball Mania 4 will be with a total prize of $15 million.
So sign up now for Underdog with the fantasy code Couriers, and they will double your first deposit up to $100 cash. In case you missed that, when you make your first deposit of $10 or more, I didn't mention that before, but $10 or more, up to $100, you get $100 in free credit. Plus, I'll throw in a Fantasy Courier sticker. You sign up, I will email you Fantasy Courier swag. Oh, we got stickers now. Working on some t-shirts. You email me, I'll mail it to you. People that joined before, join one of these contests, and I'll send you a sticker as well.
$100 and a free sticker. Can't go wrong. So join Underdog today, and don't forget to use the code Couriers. A link is in the notes of the podcast. Now, on to the podcast. What is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
JJ Wang, here we go. 1 week of Dynasty thoughts of quarterbacks down. Luckily, nothing crazy went on with quarterbacks this week. But what a perfect week for us to do the running back Dynasty show.
Yeah, I've been planning all week to do wide receivers, and then I looked at the docket. I was like, "Oh man, we're doing running backs." So I had to come up with something a little different. But I managed to make it.
Well, silver lining, that means you're ready for next week and you can relax.
I ain't ready for that. I'm ready for next week. Definitely ready for that.
So, a couple of things before we get in. We had I think it was just after we recorded last week. We are in a league where it's an proxy auction draft. Traded away all your auction money to walk away basically with Garrett Wilson. There's a couple other pieces floating around, but so you haven't been too much into this draft. So there were basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people drafting an entire league draft, and it makes for some interesting things for Superflex. The quarterbacks went so low because there were so many people, and it was so spread thin. Do you have any quick observations? And I'll mention some of the guys I got and where they fell for.
I mean, the only one that I really, like I said, the quarterbacks were super low. I was really hoping that they would have bid up Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. I know. I'm glad you didn't get. That's what I'm saying. I'm glad they outbid you on it because he was going super low. And Bijan went super high. Last time I seen it, it was like 667 or 666 or something crazy like that. So I mean, that was obviously the only guy anybody really wanted to spend money on.
Oh, I went into this draft going, I'm going to either get Bijan and some ancillary pieces, or I'm getting a whole bunch of guys. So I put $665 on Bijan. So my buddy Lance walked away with 666 on Bijan. Yeah. So now he's got the sign of the beast on him forever. But so he said it jacked up his draft. But him and I were talking. He's like, "Do I go up?" He didn't know my number, and I was like, "I got to stay here." He's like, "Do I keep going?" And then he finally went in. So I ended up moving on from him, walking away with Gibbs, A-Chain, who we'll talk about in a second, Elijah Higgins, nothing, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, nothing. But I got freaking Will Levis again. What is it? I mean, quarterbacks were low, but I got him for $16, which in an auction draft is like the 3.11 or something like that. So I think I told you before, I think I'm going to have to do another Will Levis video. I got 2 more planned. I'm going to probably eat a banana, and then I'm going to try to throw a football and hit something, and I'm going to really miss it. So I really hope I'm now on the Will Levis bandwagon. He's going to be my new favorite player. I was looking online for a cheap Will Levis jersey just because I got to, because I'm getting him everywhere. But I also I was tight end premium, so I walked with Mayer in Vegas, Laporta in Detroit. I was super excited for Kendre Miller of the Saints and Michael Wilson. But I did one bid that's not me. I ended up walking away. I put it was my second highest player on Quentin Johnson.
Oh,
Johnston.
the guy that can't catch.
The guy that I hate, the guy that I don't like. I was going in and I was 30 seconds from winning Richardson. Like the dude sniped me with 30. He told me, he's like, yeah, I was working on my chicken coop. And he's like, it was 30 seconds left. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I was trying to, I was like, I'm going to make this draft either I am really right and my team is in trouble, or I'm really wrong and my team is killing it. Because I would have walked away with Will Levis, Richardson, and Quentin Johnston. Now I got Quentin Johnston, who really I think he's, if anything, it's going to be next year. But because he's only got, I think, left on contract, and so we'll have to see how he pans out. But yeah, it's fun. I like playing the game is what I came down to. This is my league where I just like to play the game.
Yeah, after the last auction draft that we had for the Bourbon Bowl, I was like, I'm just taking this one off. I'm kind of over it. I'll just go get a player and just not even attempt it. But
Yeah, you should see. It's funny. The guys left to draft on. It's ridiculous how low it's towards that. But
it always is.
For anybody, if you've never done an auction draft, find one somewhere and do it. It's the most fun. For redraft, one of our favorite leagues is one where a bunch of guys come to my league and we legitimately do like an old school auction. Like I'll throw out a guy, someone will throw out a guy, and I'll be like, "Hey, $5, $5," and we work. It's so much fun. It's one of our best. And in about a month, I'm going to announce if anybody wants to join a Fantasy Couriers league, and it's going to be
right.
the Fantasy Couriers Bonker Balls League. We are going to have 2 quarterbacks and a super flex. We're going to have tight end premium with you must start 2 tight ends.
Oh my god!
And there are bonuses out the wazoo. I'm just going crazy bonkers. I'm not sure how I'm going to work to fill it. I'm going the Scott Fish route. You know, he just tries to every year do Scott Fish Bowl and make it totally different. And I was like, I'm going to do this league every year, and each year I'm just going to jack it up. It's going to be something totally weird. Like you get 100 yards, you get like 5 bonus points. 150, you get like 8. So it's bonuses, it's yards, and you can start 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. It's the strategy is crazy. I forget if it's one player and then super flexes, or if it's, I forget what it was, but I've been fiddling with it, and I'm gonna put something out about that in July. So mark it in your dockets if you're interested. You'll be able to hit us up. We'll have about 12 spots in that league just to go crazy wacky into it. But let's jump into it. It is Dynasty month for us. Well, for us, every month is Dynasty month. We trade, go around, look at our teams every day. So it's in that most of our teams are Dynasty. I'm actually looking at my Dynasty auction board right now. I am 18 minutes away from getting A.T. Perry, who I'm kind of intrigued by. He's a big-bodied receiver, and we know Michael Thomas is going to be hurt. And did you see the meme in there? My favorite meme of the week. It showed Damar Hamlin coming to the field, and they're like, Damar Hamlin was dead for a couple minutes, and he got to the field quicker than Michael Thomas. We might have to talk about him during the next show, but let's pop on. We are in the running backs. I don't have my rankings. I'll put my rankings while I'm going through here. But so basically, I will go through, name a couple of favorite sleepers, booms, bust rookies, and then you're going to run us down some questions, this or that stuff as we go through. And I will need to, I am so unprepared, dude. I don't have my personal rankings up, but I'll get them up while I'm going. So my favorite running back, obviously, my number one RB on my redraft, once I put that together, is going to be Christian McCaffrey. So I went a little different when I did my favorite running back here. It's a guy that we both love, a guy that started out amazingly strong last year, and that is Cam Akers. I love me some Cam Akers. I think it's our little, like, we grew up Knowles fans for some reason because they were good when we were teenagers. I actually they had a great theater program.
When I was 11 years old and Florida State was running Rush Shot over Wake Forest on Jefferson Network on Saturday mornings at 12, they were beating them 77-0. I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. That's why I'm a Knowles fan.
Mine's weird. I'm a drama teacher, and they have an excellent theater program. So I was like rooting for the Bad Boys in Miami as a kid because, we got to root for the best team. And I was like, wait, maybe I'll go there because I could have told. When I was looking at college was so cheap, it would have cost me, relative to today, it's much cheap. It's so expensive, but it was $17,000 a year out of state, which today that's like 5 days at college. It's ridiculous, but and so I rooted for them ever since then throughout time. Now I just root for, now that my Dukes are in Division I, I can root for them, and they're going to be on ESPN, ESPN Plus some. So, but Cam Akers came in, had some hype coming in, and then Achilles. And then last year he got in the doghouse. He started slow. Then he got in doghouse. Was supposed to get traded, came back, and he probably won. He won me a league. I think did he helped you into our league when you
Oh
beat
yeah,
me,
yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Yep.
They say he was they said Jacobs was the biggest league winner based upon draft, but Cam Akers had to be that guy in the last month that just killed it. And so I love him going into this year. Go for it. Shoot, I could go on for hours about Cam Akers.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much competition. I mean, they got rid of I can't remember his name. The guy that's been
Henderson.
yeah, they got rid. He's been a thorn in the side the whole time. We all thought it was going to be him, but
Yeah,
he's gone.
and he's
So
done
they got rid
nothing.
yeah, they brought in the rookie Zach Evans. They got Kyron Williams from last year. He's more of like the receiving back, but the work is his. If he looked good at the end of the year, like you said, won a lot of leagues. So everybody, but we have all seen a player have a great last 6 games and then never be able to replicate that. But I mean, it happens all the time. So, but we're just hoping that that replication is there. The offense is going to run a lot. So, I mean, I'm still hoping for Cam Akers, man.
I mean, I would say this year I have less fear about his backfield because Henderson apparently is proving to be like every Eagles backup quarterback. He's probably only good on the Rams because he got
Yeah.
cut. I forget where'd he go, but he wherever it was, he was terrible. Didn't even play. Maybe it was the Jets or something. I forget where it was. Didn't play and got cut. I mean, Cam Akers last 3 weeks of the season: 23 for 118 and 3 touchdowns, 19 for 123, 21 for 104. Tell you what. I'll take a smidge of that number. The week when he was ramping up, 12 for 65, 3 receptions for 35. He's picking up that. So if he picks up right where he left off, there's no competition. Matt Stafford's healthy. Cooper Kupp is back. Jefferson's there. One of my new favorite guys I'll probably talk about next episode is Puka Nacua. Could sneak in and be the number 2 guy there because who knows with Jefferson. But I think sky's the limit for this dude this year.
Yeah, workload's there, man. Can't argue with that. One of my favorites.
Did you see who my sleeper is? You're going to get excited.
Oh, I think I did see that.
You're going to get excited. Buffalo Bills running back, Damian Harris.
Right.
Damian Harris is what they wanted Singletary to be. They gave Singletary touches. You've loved him for years. You got me to start believing a little bit in him. He was the thorn in my Ramondre Stevenson loving side. He would produce when he played. Now he's on one of the top 5 offenses in the league with one of the top 2-3 quarterbacks in the league. He's going to be their bruiser. I mean, to be successful in fantasy, he could run for 700 yards and 15 touchdowns because maybe they'll be like, hey, let's not kill Josh.
But yeah, that's
what it comes down to.
We all know James Cook's going to be involved. I mean, he was involved heavily at the end of last season. Not so much in the beginning. So they're definitely splitting. Like I said, the season's going to come down to whether or not they want Josh Allen to take as many hits at the goal line. If not, then Damian Harris is going to get plenty of touchdown opportunities, and that's where it's going to land. Touchdown, it's like boom or bust, touchdown or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they're smart, they will, and they seem to be fairly smart. They'll be like, hey, Josh is getting hit a lot, and we want to play in February. So my boom, you're not going to like. Miles Sanders. I've always been on the Miles Sanders train. I'm just looking at the situation. He's going to be on a team that doesn't have much else. His competition is Chuba Hubbard. And Deonta Foreman honestly had a pretty good year last year. And they're going to rely on the run. And Sanders wasn't terrible last year. He did show up. So I just think not because Miles Sanders has really gotten us anything – I'm typing in Miles Sanders on my preference, and I got Miles.
Sanders is going to be, I think Sanders is going to be a solid RB too. Will they have some boom games? Maybe, possibly. The team is bad, but we've all seen good running backs on bad teams. It happens all the time. Damian Pierce was fantastic, and I think, I think Miles Sanders is just as good as Damian Pierce. I mean, he can have that kind of season. Like if he gets the touchdowns, that's always kind of been where he lacks. Is the touchdown production, but yeah, the backfield's his. The work's there. He's just got to go out there and produce. But yeah, I mean, if I got Miles Sanders, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have him on a team where I need to wait for Javonte Williams to get his legs back. And I just think, I mean, I didn't realize how good his numbers were last year. You know, last year was the first year he went over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I did see that.
12, 69, and 11 touches. I was like, I called it he was one of my favorites, and then I didn't realize how good he was because I think it was more some boom or some, yeah. My bust this year is not because I think he's going to be terrible, but I think everybody's going to live on last year. It was a guy who never have been super high on after his rookie year, but he just killed it last year. I mean, Josh Jacobs last year was the man. 1,653 yards and 12 touchdowns. I said earlier, he was the guy that was on most winning championship teams because you'd get him so late last year. And he provided, I just think he's going to go too high. And there's got to be positive regression, but how much will it be?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not big on Josh Jacobs either, but like he's been a good running back ever since he's been in the league. Been pretty reliable. He's never like the RB1, but last year he definitely was the best season. So he had a really good season. I thought that was his peak. I don't think he goes up anymore. It's definitely coming down, but the work is still his. There's not a lot of backup competition. I mean, the offense is still going to go through him. We don't know about Grop. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah.
So they might run even more. So there's definitely bust opportunity here, but he's been solid throughout his whole career.
I mean, Tom Brady will pass it to him every now and then. He'll let him run, you know. Yeah, Garoppolo's gonna start the season. I think that's all just a bunch of crazy. I mean, you know, he's rookie of the year. He had the 2 middle years, which were touchdown goods, but otherwise. But I mean, yeah, who would have seen that coming with Josh Jacobs last year? That was freaking incredible. But it's more like I think he'll still be, you know. Will he still fall quarterback 10, 11? Probably. I'm guessing somewhere right in there. I haven't done my season rankings yet, but I think it's somewhere in there. And I got 2 rookies because I think barring Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin Cook got cut from the Vikings. He's the big X factor on pretty much everybody's fantasy roster. Like, please don't let him come to Cincinnati. Please don't let him come to Cleveland. Please. I mean, I heard the ridiculousness of him going to the New York Giants, and then they rescind the franchise tag from Saquon. Some ridiculousness. Don't let him go to Dallas. Then Tony Pollard's garbage. Don't let him go to Miami. A-Chain, who was supposed to be the scat back. Don't let him go blah, blah, everywhere. And Denver was supposed to be in there, and they're stepping back. So the Dalvin Cook, wherever he signs, is going to make some fantasy dynasty owner cry.
Yeah, so, I mean, probably going to make somebody happy too. I mean, he's been a pretty consistent running back his whole career too. Like I say, I don't know if like the upside is there for him to be what he has been. Though.
Yeah, I mean, also as a fan going to Miami, that'd be great.
Yeah,
as a fantasy guy going to Miami, I would kill me because I got some A-chains, and I think because I don't really think he's going to go to Miami because the signs what I'm hearing are they want to pay him less and they want to make him a committee back. They want to run the San Francisco thing where they have, you know, the 49ers backs in A-chain and then put Cook in there and have him be a rotational back. And I think he still wants to be the dude, or at least the co-high dude. I don't think he's willing to.
He's definitely going to ruin somebody's day. I can guarantee you that.
So that being said, my rookies are Gibbs and A-Chain because I might be the weirdo on earth that I see these 2 guys, one as a very expensive version of the other because they're going to have similar roles. Miami's offense is fast and they're going to pass a lot. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, like imagine if Miami had a track team. You put Mostert, A-Chain, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, it would be disgusting. But Gibbs is going to be in the same situation. They're going to be slinging the rock up in Detroit, and they're both scat backs. They both got other backs that'll probably handle the rock in between the 20s more, and they'll be PPR gold. So I really think if Dalvin Cook doesn't go to Miami, I would not be shocked. This might be one of my bold predictions. If A-Chain is either equal to or greater than Gibbs by the end of the year. David Montgomery's in there still and stuff. Like,
did Montgomery get hurt? Did you hear anything about that? I wasn't really sure, but yeah, I mean, I think A-Chain is more of a boomer bust kind of player, and Jahmyr Gibbs will be a more consistent player. But like I said, I can see where A-Chain blows up. Has a great year. Yes, I mean, I got a couple of A-Chains. I don't have any Gibbs yet. I'm not sure if I will, but. I can see it. I can see a world where I can see a world where they both have good seasons.
Lower leg injury for Montgomery 2 weeks ago. I don't see anything else of it, but he's dogging on the Bears. But I mean, I think he's going to get his. I think also. I mean, if you said to bet on him, I would bet on Gibbs because they went. I mean, draft capital speaks. They're gonna give him the ball. He's gonna put it a lot, but. It'll be interesting.
And I think it's going to take a while for A-Chain to get on the field, unless there's an injury. I think he's going to
You mean
be hurt.
Mostert and
Hurt
Jeff
for.
Wilson might
Yeah, I know they're both. I know they're both going to get injured, but it's going to take injuries for him to get on the field. It's not going to take injuries for Gibbs to get on the field.
Yes, I mean money. I would bet on Gibbs, but I would not. It would be in this situation. I wouldn't be shocked if they were close or he overtook him.
Yeah.
So go. Okay, so those are my favorite sleepers, booms, bust, and rookies from DJ Dub. You can check out rankings on the Fantasy Couriers site via Fantasy Pros, as I'm a Fantasy Pro expert, which means I'm just a lucky guesser. So what you got for us, JJ Wang? Give us
Yeah.
some.
So I got one question from each division here. We'll go quick. AFC East first. We already talked about Buffalo, Miami. We're going to go Ramondre Stevenson and Brees Hall. Now, of course, I think you'd have Brees Hall as your dynasty league running back, of course. But for next season, Brees Hall coming off the injury, who has the better year?
Oh, all signs are pointing to Brees starting the year. I am trying. I got a guy in one league who's like, "Hey, I want to trade Brees Hall," and I'm like, I'm throwing it. Like I have never. I try to avoid having Jets because I don't want to root for him. But Brees Hall he looked stellar last year. He looked stellar. I love Ramondre. I just don't trust Bill Belichick. I could see Ramondre like killing it, coming close to Brees Hall numbers because they're gonna try to feature Aaron Rodgers in New York. But I bet against Brees Hall already. I mean, on Dynasty, Brees is my 3 and Ramondre is my 8. So I mean, I got faith in both of the guys, but Brees is also 22 years old and Ramondre is 25.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of both. Hoping Brees Hall is able to play that first game, but we just don't know what his workload is going to be. For the first 6 weeks, I can't imagine him giving a full workload.
Who are they going to give the ball to, though? Israel Canabande and
They still got Mike. They still got Michael Carter still there. He's healthy. So I mean, they got options, but I just can't see him giving them the full.
I think they're going to pass more, so that might be what makes Ramondre pass.
Yeah, maybe. So over to the north, of course, we got Najee Harris in Pittsburgh. He's really good. Nick Chubb, Cleveland's really good. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati and Baltimore here. Who has the better season, Joe Mixon or J.K. Dobbins?
Ooh, Joe Mixon or J.K. Dobbins? This year, Joe Mixon.
Right.
They kept him. He's a good running back. He's on a better offense. J.K. Dobbins, I would be interested in trading for. I had one share and I traded it away. And they're going away from the run some. So that'll be interesting to see what his load. I mean, he's still the RB1. Gus is getting older. I think it's going to be finally time to put him out to pasture.
He's still averaging 5 yards a carry.
I know. If he doesn't get hurt. But I'm going to go. I still would say for this year, it's going to be Joe Mixon. I mean, he's signed through 2 years, and that's why they haven't cut him because they're looking at the dead cap money or running him into the ground. And I would run a good running back into the ground. I mean, he's 26,
Yeah. Dobbins is kind of like Akers. Still, he's showing signs, but he just can't get a run long enough to do anything. But Dobbins looked decent at the end of last season, so we'll see. I think it'll be Mixon as well. If he's playing the whole season, he's still going to get to work.
It's still not. It's not a big gap though, to be honest.
Yeah. Moving over to the South, this could probably be the best collection of running backs. We got Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Damian Pierce. All those are top guys. Henry's probably first, right? Maybe actually Henry or Taylor, who's higher? Who has a better season?
Ooh, I mean Taylor is currently my number 1. What am I thinking? Bijan I want to put number 1 on Dynasty. I should, but I'm a doofus. Taylor I got higher on Dynasty, but for this year, I mean until Henry shows me wrong, I've got to say Henry because he stays healthy, whereas Taylor doesn't. Yeah. Henry could end up being a robot, like everybody. I think I mentioned last year. Anybody talked to me, I haven't even listened to offers for Henry or offered him because everybody wants to get him for free, and I still think he's got 4 years where he can be between an RB1 and an RB2 for your team.
What if Tennessee pulls a Carolina and trades him mid-season like they did with CMC?
Then this question is null and void and it's Jonathan Taylor because he's not in the division.
That is true.
It depends where he goes. I mean, if as long as he is in Tennessee, they're gonna run. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, Tannehill, he's throwing to you and me this year, and then Will Levis can't hit anybody, and Malik will just run and throw for 40%. So, I mean, he's the offense. He's one of the few teams in the last 20 years that's run through a running back.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so moving over to the West, it's pretty. We talked about Jacobs, of course. Austin Eckler is going to be good. Hopefully, I mean he's still going to get most of the work. We got Isaiah Pacheco in Kansas City, not really sure what's going on there. And then we've got Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine coming in from Cincinnati, he's been real good, so you know he's going to be that thorn in your side. Are you going to trust either one of these guys?
Samaje Perine in September, and then after that, I'm going to play some Russian roulette. I mean, I think they would be full in the NFL. I think they would be foolish to not let Javonte Williams get healthy because that knee injury apparently ended up being nastier than they thought it was. And why rush him back when you know Pirine is a good running back? You paid a little bit for him. You brought him in especially to work. I mean, it's the evil genius doing this anyway. So it's Sean Payton, and I mean, I'm a believer in whenever my rankings come, you're going to see Russell Wilson's going to be high for me. I think Russell Wilson is going to kill it this year. He could be in the top 10 for me for season long. Like in Dynasty, I still got him I got him at 16 for Dynasty because he's 34, but that's still 3-4 more years. But I've heard he's listened to one. Chad Parsons, who did a thing for our show last year, he's got a new podcast I was listening to, and they were it's called Dynasty Think Tank, and they were talking about Wilson. Wilson's going the Tom Brady route, and he's slimming up this year. Like he's still got, they said he's like got a bigger frame, but he's slimming up, trying to go Brady so he can extend the career health wise. So I mean, I just think Wilson's going to kill it, which will benefit those two guys, but it's going to be scary.
Yeah, definitely going to be scary. Moving over to the NFC, we got the East. Of course, Cowboys with Pollard, Barkley in New York. What's the better combination? Swift and Gainwell or Robinson and Gibson?
Better combination. I like the Eagles better, but I think the better combination has to be the Commanders for now because Swift is Swift. I love Gainwell. I was so excited for Gainwell this year, and then that trade happened. I was like, but I think, I mean, Riverboat Ron is throwing us smoke and mirrors again, telling us that we hear it around here. We're in the DC range that Antonio Gibson's going to be used the way he should be used as a receiver. And if they make them a true thunder and lightning, that would be dangerous because Gainwell and Swift are the same person. And that would make the Commanders better because they're a better player because they got a pounder and they got a receiver.
Yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of Gainwell. I like the other three, but I'm going to go Robinson and Gibson here just for the fact I think it's a better combination as far as like power and the speed pass catching right there.
I don't want any of them. If I got to pick one guy, I'm probably going to still go for Swift. But if I went cheap, I might check out what's his name in Commanders Office right now.
Brian Robinson.
The other guy, Gibson.
Antonio Gibson.
Just because he'd be cheaper.
All right, moving over to NFC North, we talked about Gibbs. I mean, we got Alexander Madison, Minnesota, and then they got the whatever it is there in Chicago with Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and Donta Foreman. Looking at so you got Alexander Madison assuming taking over the number one role. Madison's been okay. When he's had his opportunities to fill in for Dalvin Cook, he's been okay. Do you think there's any competition behind him and like maybe Ty Chandler by chance? Or is it just going to be they're just going to run Madison until, right?
Hunt, Zeke Elliott. I mean, I think it's going to be those two guys. I think that Ty Chandler, I've picked him up in a couple of leagues this week because there's some rumbling saying that he might get more than you think. Everybody's all hyped on Madison, and I've been underwhelmed by Madison. Maybe it's because he's been hyped to do so much, and then it's been like, hey, yay! Last year, 283 yards, woo woo. But I mean, Dalvin Cook was really good. But I mean, the year before he averaged 3.7 per carry in 21, 3.8 in 22. His first 2 years, he barely had 100 attempts, but he had 4.5. So
yeah, I feel like
I'm underwhelmed by this guy.
Like a good comparison would be like Tony Pollard, right? But Tony Pollard has succeeded.
No, he showed it, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, he has proven that, like, given the opportunity, he actually excels. Madison, he's gotten the opportunity, but I just don't think he's excelled with the opportunity.
AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
Madison's like AJ Dillon because I stole that one, I think, from the footballers. But that he is the guy that everybody's like, yeah, and then when you see him, you're like, I mean, what about McBride?
I mean, that's probably a touchdown guy. Maybe we'll see. I mean, who knows? I mean,
But
this
Ramondre didn't catch balls in.
yeah, I don't trust any of these guys. So moving
Yeah,
over to
well,
NFC South, we talked about Miles Sanders, but there's another guy there in Tampa Bay named Rashad White.
Broadway.
Who finishes higher, or Rashad White or Miles Sanders?
Uh, Miles Sanders. Yeah, because I'm gonna say Miles Sanders just because he's better. He's a better player, and Rashad
I mean,
White.
maybe. I don't know if he's a
Oh,
better player.
as of now, let me phrase it. He's done more in his career, so I'm just going to go with what he's done more in his career than Rashad White has. And the Bucks, who knows? I mean, I'm rooting for Baker, but who knows? So yeah, I'm
So I
going
mean,
to go
same thing.
Miles Sanders for right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the teams are any different. They're both terrible. There's not a lot of talent. Well, Tampa Bay has some good receiving talent, but it's going to be hard to get the ball to them with the quarterbacks that we got. So it's going to be a tough year for both teams. I think I might go Rashad White here over Miles Sanders. But I think it's going to be close. They're going to be probably within 2 or 3 positions of each other.
Yeah.
So moving over here to the NFC West, the last one. I mean, you got CMC at the top, but everything else is crazy. You got Akers, who knows? You got James Conner in Arizona. That running back committee down there is who knows. And then I think the most interesting is the rookies Charbonnet and Kenny Walker. Kenny Walker kind of tailed off towards the end of last season. Kind of worried me a little bit. Maybe worried the Seahawks too. Uh, Kenny Walker can't be as high on your draft boards, right?
No, Kenny Rucker dropped like a freaking rock
Yeah.
because of, well, they drafted another running
Yeah.
back. I mean, do I think that is spectacular if I was a Seattle Seahawks fan? You better believe it. That is amazing. I would love to have those two guys because I think it's going to be an amazing. That team could surprise as long as Gino does something like what he did last year because they got three really good receivers. Noah Fant showed he can play football, but they don't need him. They got those two running backs, and they're well coached. Like as much as I've never been a Pete Carroll fan, mainly because of the way like he's a spectacular coach apparently because of how he left USC. So it's more that because those poor college kids got screwed over. But apparently he is one of the greatest coaches, lovable guys, loves his guys, and he's going to ground and pound. They're going to run the crap out of the ball with those two guys. So they're going to be those two guys could be. They could end up being like running back 13 and 14 or something stupid like that. No, running back 19 and 20, something like that, because they'll steal from each other and just.
I mean, I feel like if they're going to be running like that, it's going to be a tough year for the receivers, right?
Yeah. I mean, eventually I've got to be right about Taylor Lockett. Every year I have him so low, and then he just kills me every time I'm playing.
Yeah, I mean,
Metcalf will get
eventually
his.
you're going to be right.
Eventually, at least in 5 years, he won't be doing it to me because
Yeah.
JSN's gonna jump in. But I think JSN's gonna underwhelm for people this year because he doesn't have to. But they're saying he's looking great, and they're really liking him in camp. So maybe Lockett really, really does go down, and they could be a really good team, as bad as we thought they'd be last year.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. But yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, so running backs. I mean, running back is still. I mean, that's the wrapping of our running backs. Running back, are they still king in fantasy? The last
But
to
it
close
depends
it
on
out?
what you consider king. I mean, you got to have them because they're so valuable. Because there's not very. I mean, they're just so. You got to have running backs. So I mean, in that term, yeah, they might be king. But looking at today's, fantasy, I mean, receivers are just they're everywhere, and a lot of players like to start with receivers first, build your team around there. But just the fact that running backs gets hurt so often, and you need like 13 on your roster just to get through the season, I think they're still king.
I mean, I think being that this is a dynasty show, I would say they're not king anymore because of what you said earlier. When you build a dynasty team, first round, first pick, unless if it's super flex, it's Mahomes. If it's not super flex, it's Jefferson. Because you running backs have that short shelf life. You grab Jefferson right now, he's 24. Dude, you've got 8 years. You grab Chase,
Maybe, but look at it this way: when you're looking at your team and you've got 2 stud running backs, how confident are you than looking at your team and you don't have 2 stud running backs?
say you start with Jefferson and Garrett Wilson. How do you feel then looking around having
But what
Cam
if you're running?
Akers, Jefferson, Wilson, Cam Akers, and who'd be the next running back here? Maybe draft Henry. So you could have Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Cam Akers, and Derrick Henry as your first 4 picks based upon.
I mean, if you can get Derrick Henry, yeah, sure, you've got a
I mean,
stud
in a
running
startup
back.
draft, he's going to go lower. So that's going to be. So yeah, I mean, in redraft, I think running back is still king
Yeah,
because you don't need the forever. But I think in
but
dynasty, it's a little it's a
I would,
different
yeah,
beast.
but yeah, I'm about to say, if you're looking at your team, you feel way more comfortable when you've got high end running backs than when you don't have high end running backs. Like if you're starting Damian Pierce and Isaiah Pacheco, I mean, like I am in a league, but I mean, you're not. That doesn't sound very confident to you, right? It
Who's
doesn't.
your
It doesn't.
receivers?
I mean, I got Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk, but I also got Damian Pierce and Isaiah Pacheco. I ain't winning anything with those guys.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I might. I'm not gonna say I'm not going to win. I can't win,
I mean,
but
it puts
it's
you in
interesting.
competition. I mean, you sweat a lot more without the stud
Yeah.
running backs. You got to be smarter in how you play and if you can move guys for
But
pieces.
don't get me wrong. I've definitely switched over to receivers lately. I'm not as high on like getting those big name running backs,
And
but
I
I think
mean,
at the end of the day, you just feel really good having stud running backs on your team. I think.
yeah, and I've been a member of the no RB guys for a while, and some years I'll zag it. But I also believe I think we'll talk about this in summer more is don't become a believer of one or the other. Play what comes to you. Don't like if I'm a zero RB and I'm at pick 1-9 and for some reason CMC is there, I don't skip him. That's stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going zero. No, you got to play the board and know your room. Like I played this draft wrong because quarterbacks went so low. So give us some
Yeah.
wisdom, get us out of here, and let's have a great week dreaming of running backs and where Dalvin Cook goes.
Words of wisdom. So I watched. I don't know. There's a social media character, right? Is it like a 10, 11-year old kid? His name is Baby Gronk, right? His his dad, his dad, does all this stuff, and they've projected him as like the best football player in the country, right? This kid's making visits to all these schools. He's got he's dressed up in all their uniforms. It's pretty interesting. But I will say at the end of the day, I could not imagine raising my kid like that. Remember Todd Marinovich, right?
Yeah.
That was like that. That's
Uh-huh.
what this kid. Yeah, that's what this kid is kind of like going through with his parents, and it does
So he's
not.
going to the XFL.
Maybe that's probably where he hit the best chance that he's got. But yeah, if you got a couple minutes, just kind of watch the story. I mean, it's like I just can't imagine raising your kids like that. It's insane. But as always, trust yourself and trust the process.